Good morning, Lakota East High School. Welcome to the Hawks on 3 podcast presented by SBN Radio. I'm your host, Mason Wise, along with my co-hosts, Drew Bachman and Jake Ratliff.
How's it going?
Today we'll be discussing the Super Bowl, arguably one of the biggest sporting events in all professional sports, which happened to take place this past Sunday between the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. The Chiefs did win that game by a score of 31-20. However, before we get into that game, we will be discussing the playoffs and those teams' roads to the Super Bowl and how they did during the regular season as well.
Yeah, so the Chiefs they start off with the first round bye, and they went down in the first game. They played 24-0 to the Texans, so it looked like they might be making an early exit.
Mm-hmm.
But Patrick Mahomes can storm back, 3 for 5 touchdowns, 300-something yards. I mean, he just went off, and once they started making a run, they know there was no stopping them. So
yeah, he was. They were also phenomenal in that the conference championship right after that game. Up against the Titans, they won that game by a score of 35-24, which was obviously impressive considering the Titans' record in that in the playoffs that round as well. They beat the Patriots first round and then ended up going off to beat the Ravens the second round, which were two very, very powerful teams this year. And then obviously the Chiefs' power and being able to beat them, that set the mood going into the Super Bowl. Very well. Yeah,
and definitely back to what Drew was saying, it was definitely a pattern of the Chiefs throughout the playoffs to kind of take an early stumble and fall behind, but they were able to rally back in both of those games, and that's ultimately what got them to the Super Bowl. And then on the flip side, you had the 49ers, who, as a matter of fact, they really dominated this year. They came into the playoffs on an 8-game winning streak. They were on an absolute tear, and they really had no trouble in those first 2 games. They had the number 1 seed in the NFC, and then, of course, they had the first round bye. They won handily against the Vikings, 27-10, and then dominated the Packers as well, 37-20 before that game.
And that Packers game, it might say 37-20, but that game was a much more
the
score
for
indicate.
Sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Raheem Mostert with 220 yards and 4 touchdowns. He was just running all over him. The line was opened up massive holes for him to run through. The Packers basically had no chance in that game.
Yeah,
and then you've also got Nick Bosa and Arik Armstead. They're constantly in the backfield. They're always causing problems for Aaron Rodgers. That was just another way to just led them to their victory.
Yeah, their front seven is something else. That's really what propelled them to have such a great season, even though they ended up falling short. But their front seven was really, was the main factor in their defense. Really causing problems for not only the run game and the passing game. Throwing the quarterback off his rhythm. Yeah.
And speaking of that defense, I'll have to fact check this, but I believe the 49ers were third in the league in team defense in the regular season. So even coming into the playoffs, their defense was one of the best, and definitely gave them an advantage over the Chiefs going into that Super Bowl. And as you could see before in those 2 games, those first round games, definitely helped, and they were able to use it to their advantage. And one thing that also helped in that Packers game, of course, was their home field advantage. Had they had to go to Lambeau and play that game, it may have been a completely different game, but like I said, they won handily that game, and pretty relatively easy path to the Super Bowl for them.
Yeah, and the Chiefs' defense, last year it seemed like that was kind of the limiting factor. They had Mahomes, they had the high-powered offense, but the defense is kind of what held them back. So they had their defense, it still wasn't top 5, but it was better than it was last year. So that was a big improvement from them from last year. So looking in the actual game, the first quarter, and that 49ers defense, they showed out the first drive, forced 3 and out. The Kansas City got the ball first, and they didn't really do anything with it.
For sure. I definitely kind of expected the 49ers to come out hot in that game, especially, like I said, they had the 8-game winning streak coming into the playoffs, and then they had won 2 more games after. So you're talking about a 10-game winning streak, hottest team in the league, one of the best defenses. I just kind of knew they were going to come out and throw the first punch, and I'd say they did for the most part. However, the Chiefs did respond after 49ers drew first blood on a field goal. Patrick Mahomes drove down the field, punched it in with a touchdown, so they did take a 7-3 lead. But for the most part, in the first few drives of that game, 49ers did come out swinging.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then moving into the second quarter, you start off with a terrible interception from Jimmy G, and I don't know if you like even remembered that or whatever, but it was like it looked like he was just basically throwing the ball away. Like that was a very reckless move, and then you give that to the Chiefs, and then you lead them into that rest of the game. They'd what was it? It was he's got a lot of pressure on Mahomes is. I don't know what I'm talking about right now.
Yeah, but I think what you were saying is, it looked like he was trying to throw the ball away. It looked like the pressure by Chris Jones, the all-pro defensive lineman for the Chiefs, but it ended up being intercepted by Bashad Breeland. So that was a big turning point in the game, I think. That really momentum in the Chiefs' favor. But
for sure. Yeah. And that's definitely something that the Chiefs needed in that game, with the 49ers having clearly the better defense. The fact that they were able to force a turnover was definitely huge. And like Drew said, that was definitely a big turning point. Momentum kind of swung back and forth, especially in that first half, but that definitely threw it back in the Chiefs' favor for sure.
Yeah, but then after that, the 49ers' next drive, and they just went right down the field. Gaping holes created by the offensive line, ran for 38 yards on 4 carries, and Jimmy G was also 3 for 3 for 42 yards on a touchdown.
And that was definitely huge.
Yeah, running off of play action, the defense will suck up. Those safeties came down, creating easy passes for Jimmy Garoppolo. So,
and that's what tied the game, right?
Yeah,
right
10-10.
That was huge. For sure.
Yeah,
and then the Chiefs did get the ball first in that game, I believe.
Yeah,
so that was big for the 49ers to be able to come out of the half with the ball and the game still tied.
Yeah.
So that was definitely huge.
And then they made 52 yards right at the start of that third quarter on 5 plays. They're driving all the way down, kicking the field goal, and moving up the rest of the game. 10-13 right at the beginning of the third quarter. Right after that, they just set the tone for the rest of the game, leading them to victory and all that.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
All right, yeah. So the next drive by the Chiefs, they look like they're kind of driving. They were, making. I think they had a couple first downs, and then it was an errant throw to Tyreek Hill. I'm not sure if Mahomes missed through the defense or it was just an inaccurate throw, but and then it was picked off by the 49ers. I think it ended up I think it was about the 50-yard line. So the 49ers capitalized with Jimmy Garoppolo going 3 for 4 for 52 yards. Was capped off by Raheem Mostert touchdown from 1 yard out. So that gave him a 20-10 lead. At this point, you're thinking, this thing might be over, but
no doubt.
I guess we have Mahomes on their side. It's never really over.
Yeah, with all the momentum they had coming out of halftime, as soon as they went up 20-10, I thought they were definitely in control of the game. I knew it would be close, and I knew that the Chiefs would rally back just because that's how they roll. They once again, you're starting to see that pattern where they're falling behind. But at this point, it was the third quarter. They got to make something happen fast, and all the momentum was swinging in the 49ers' direction. So at this point, I did not think it was very likely that the Chiefs would come back. But, I mean, they definitely proved me wrong,
Yeah, so after starting the fourth quarter, they're down 20-10. So after a solid drive with 2 third down conversions, they're back in the 49ers territory, but Mahomes throws another ball behind Tyreek Hill on a slant pass. Tyreek Hill had at least 3 yards of separation there. It should be, that's an easy throw for the former MVP in 2018, but he just missed him there behind him, was intercepted. So at this point, it's 20-10, 49ers ball in the fourth quarter. You're thinking, it's 49ers score here. It's a good chance
it's over for sure. And luckily Kansas City was able to get a big stop after throwing that interception, got the ball back, and that's kind of what led to the avalanche of scoring from the Chiefs. In fact, they did end the game on a 21-0 run, 21 unanswered points.
Yeah.
And that stop was huge for them because, like you said, Drew, had the 49ers scored on that drive after the interception, it very likely would have been game over.
Yeah, Mahomes definitely turned it around. I think for the first 3 quarters, you could definitely make an argument that Jimmy Garoppolo was outplaying Patrick Mahomes, which going into the game, you would have never thought that.
Yeah.
But Mahomes was struggling a little bit, but boy, he picked it up in the fourth quarter. He was on that another touchdown drive after a big stop of their defense. He was 5 of 5 for 60 yards, and that's what ultimately gave them the lead 24-20 with 2:44 left in regulation. So, I mean, I guess that's how Mahomes rolls. He just kind of falls behind, gets a slow start, but he picks it up and he gets going for sure.
And then just to seal the deal, they force another turnover on downs, and then Damian Williams runs for another 31 yards and get another touchdown, seals the game 31-20, and then that's the game. And even though right at the end of that third quarter, it seemed like the Niners were running away with it, and then looked like it was going to be in their favor. Fourth quarter, boom, they snapped right back into play and took that ring.
And I will say the score may have been 31-20, but it was certainly closer than the score indicated. I think these two teams were very evenly matched. It went back and forth, especially in the first half. They were just exchanging blows. I'm surprised it wasn't a little more high scoring, but just the fact that it was low scoring just tells you how good the defensive play was, and how they just kept exchanging blows. That's pretty much it.
Kind of go off the defense. I think something that doesn't get talked about enough in this game was Kansas City's defense in that fourth quarter. Everyone wants to talk about Mahomes and the way he lit it up, but I think getting 3 consecutive stops that really allowed for them to come back in the game. If they don't get stops, I mean, they're behind. There's no way they can catch up. They got a big stop. Mahomes gets a touchdown, another big stop, another touchdown. Then they force a turnover on downs. I don't think that gets talked about enough. I think they deserve a little more credit. But
it's always the quarterback that gets talked about the most, just because of the fame that comes with the quarterback title. I agree with absolutely exactly what you said. Like, that defense they've got to be strong in order to keep that game going. Like, offense is the best defense, obviously, but at the same time, defense is also the best defense. If we weren't able to get that stop right at the beginning of that fourth quarter, that mood definitely would have had a very different turn to it.
Yeah, and actually, I have the list pulled up right here. The Chiefs were ranked 8th in total defense in the league, which is actually much higher than I had previously thought. But I think really that what people were failing to mention going into this game was how stellar the Chiefs defense was as well, and how much they had improved since last season. Because, like you said, it was just a defensive battle for sure, and the Chiefs defense made plays when they needed to. And although Mahomes was shut out of the game for the most part for the first 3 quarters, their defense did keep him in the game, and really what allowed that comeback at the end. But just a great defensive game to watch. I was very impressed with what I was seeing on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, so kind of looking forward to the next year. These are 2 teams that are both, really young. You got Patrick Mahomes, he's 24, Garoppolo's 28, and then on both sides of the ball, you got Nick Bosa, defensive player of the year, defensive rookie of the year.
He's only rookie.
There's a lot of youth on both sides of the ball. So I think it's safe to say that both these teams will be, back in the playoffs.
For sure.
Potentially back in the Super Bowl again.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with the Chiefs. I think more so with the Chiefs. Like you said, they have last year's MVP as their quarterback, and the way their defense is trending in the right direction. If their defense can keep getting better, we know they have the weapons on offense, but if their defense keeps going in the direction that it is, then very well they could be back in the Super Bowl next year. And then same with the 49ers. Young quarterback, defense is pretty young. Their front 7 will be back, and that's really what was their wrecking crew this year and allowed them to get that far. So
as long as they're both able to keep everyone under contract, no one jumps ships. But
absolutely.
But that was a good matchup, though. I mean, you got 2 kind of different play styles. You got the Chiefs kind of with an air raid with Mahomes. They'll drop back 40-50 times and throw it around. And you got the Niners who are primarily running the ball. They create huge holes with their offensive line and go up that with play action. So it was kind of nice to see those 2 contrasting styles go against each other.
And I actually heard a stat, but going to that game, I'm pretty sure the 49ers ran the ball on 70% of their snaps. I think that was just during the postseason, but they were a very heavy running team. And but one thing that you definitely saw in common between both teams was their defense. So it was definitely great to watch.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Unless you guys have anything else to add, that'll do it from SBN Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Drew and Jake, for coming on to the show.
Absolutely.
And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.